Hello and welcome to Hindu Newspaper Analysis 11th January 2023. First article talks about delay in the compensation to the Bhopal Gas tragedy victims. We are well aware that 2nd to 3rd December 1984 at Union Carbide India Limited pesticide plant in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, over 5 lakhs people in the small towns around the plant were exposed to highly toxic gas methyl isocyanate (MIC). Government of India estimated around 2,259 people died immediately, and in 2008 Madhya Pradesh government declared that around 3,000 people died in that issue. Of course, around 5,74,000 people injured in the victims. Unfortunately, the compensation to this company is delayed and even it is not given at the prior time. What is more unfortunate thing is now the Union Carbide company in its reply to the Supreme Court stated that nothing more they are going to pay, and that is the issue we have to understand. So this article could be understood that timely compensation delay is one of the issue in Indian disasters. Next article talks about lessons from the Ukraine-Russia war. Here the author elaborately explains about the outcomes, or you can say the things in the Russian-Ukraine war. Author begins this article with a quotation said by Winston Churchill, and I quote, "Russia is a riddle, wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma." The Russia is quite difficult to understand because Russian formulation is somewhat different from the other countries. Historians will say Russia has two best friends. One is its army, the second one is its so-called the climate. Apart from that, the policies of Russia is also not very much easy to understand. One of his interview, Vladimir Putin noted that international law is counter to the Russian civilization. Synchronizing with Russian view about international law, even Chinese President Xi Jinping also stated in one of his speeches that his international law is against the Chinese civilization. Now, on this background, we need to understand Russian place in the Russia-Ukraine war. If you closely observe the developments from last few years, Russia developed as a unipolar country, and it gave a severe competition in the bipolar world during the Cold War period, and which severely countered the capitalist-led Western blocs. Later, the disintegration of USSR declined the position of Russia, and Russia witnessed a massive crisis after the post-disintegration. However, Putin tries to rebuild the Russian economic status, and later he started to project Russia as one of the severe competitor for the West-led unipolar or even multipolar world. Now you should understand, within this time itself, Winston Churchill, who said, and I quote, "the end of the beginning of multilateralism," while also reminding the great powers of the pitfalls of long wars. Now, multilateralism, which started to strike the global politics from 1990s onwards, doesn't have its relevance in crisis. If you closely observe the things, after the disintegration in 1991, we witnessed a unipolar world, and in the name of protecting democracy and countering dictators, USA involved in mindless wars. Its intervention in Libya to protect democracy, its devastating wars in Iraq to counter Saddam Hussein, its intervention into Afghanistan to prevent the unstable governments, all this includes the so-called name as democracies against dictatorship, the name of rules-based order, of course, which is more or less international scholars will say American-centric world. But still, what is important is Russia still able to project its power in their areas. What is further interesting is, meanwhile, we witness rise of China, again a countering force to the USA domination. What is interesting is now USA even changed itself. We are witnessing USA changing its position, change in its strategy with respect to multilateralism, because time and again USA blocking WTO appellate tribunal appointments, and also it is weakening the institutions. For example, USA and even Israel walk out from these United Nations Human Rights Councils. USA is also a champion of the globalization, now going against the globalization, prioritizing this protectionism. And USA also going back to its native people and trying to focus its domestic politics, not interested to lead the multilateral organizations. Now, what is other point of view here is, the author stated that still Russia is trying to get the hold in the global politics. The way it started to intervene in the Georgia, the way it annexed the Crimea in 2013, and also rise of Iran in the Western Asia, and America exit from the Afghanistan are signals for the shifting of the global power. So this article should be understood from the background point of view. And finally, what is important is, we should remember one quotation as in the international relations, that is, realist scholars will say, it is essential anarchy in which great powers compete for maximizing their power. So that is what exactly going here in this article can be useful in mains GS answers and also essay writing for peace. Next article talks about barking up the wrong tree. This article highlights the recent announcement of remote electronic voting. I would like to present a separate module on the remote electronic voting, but I will just give you a brief about it. As per 2011 census, around 450 million migrants, which are amounts to 37% of India's population, and these people are missing the voting sometimes. What is unfortunate is, these are not much cared people throughout the India. A book written by Ashwini Kumar, Migrants, Mobility and Citizenship in India, on Election Commission's decision to explore remote voting for migrants, he hailed the decision. Ashwini Kumar, who wrote this book, Migrants, Mobility and Citizenship in India, he supported the move, and he also stated that this move is going to help the migrant laborers to get their prioritizing benefits like social security in the working state, special policies in the home state. They will get a chance for the representation in the constituencies if the population is very high. And apart from that, he also believes that this is going to shift the focus towards the migration workers in a better manner. They may have some special importance in the manifestos, and what is more important is they can get the benefits of this welfare politics, and it may promote the inter-ethnic tolerance. But still there are some concerns. Even government of the opposition leaders, even in the conference with the Election Commission of India, raised some concerns like these people are not going to have representation. These people parties may miss to place the so-called party workers as a people who will coordinate the elections. You know very well that elections during the time party polling agents will be there. The party may not able to fix the polling vote agents, so on and so forth. But other here raised a series of questions. Apart from series of questions, he also raised his queries over VVPAT and the audits about the accounting. You know very well that EVM idea was mooted in the year 1977, and of course MB Hanifa, Muhammad Hanifa invented the first voting machine in 1980, and it was introduced in the by-election of North Parur Assembly in Kerala in 1981 in 50 polling stations. Then EVMs were commissioned in 1989 by Election Commission of India with the cooperation of BEL, that is Bharat Electronics Limited, and Electronics Corporation of India Limited. Later, in 1988, a Representation of People's Act inserted 61A, which provide to use electronic voting machines. Now, what is our important point is, we should understand that this EVMs and the VVPAT's role. Now, VVPATs, which are important, and VVPAT idea was proposed by Rebecca Mercury, and then it was VVPATs also introduced in the last time elections. The voter verifiable paper audit trail is a mechanism in which you can see the voting process. That is, you can check whether your vote polled to the correct party or correct person. But other raises certain queries. Are these machines are independent? They have the having the competence of counting, because the audit trail of this VVPAT is very low. In fact, Supreme Court is also not giving a serious directions on this issue. Finally, this VVPATs should be considered as a mechanism to audit the voting system. Here, Election Commission of India ignored the report given by Citizens Commission on Elections, which demanded verifiability of VVPAT counting. What Audrey is suggesting is, the most important point for all of us is, you should have a democracy with accountability and transparency, and you should bring informed citizenry in the democratic world. For that, others suggesting that modern computer system with digital security and then cryptography, which may help this issue. And digitalization is also a step further providing accountability. These points can be remembered for writing technology role in governance, and also the loopholes in the VVPAT system or electoral reforms. Next article talks about pre-poll budget unlikely to feature big reforms, rural spending to rise. Generally, you may not read this article, also not very much important also. But the suggestions given by Goldman Sachs could be remembered for our GS answer for our essay topics. Goldman Sachs, a well-known policy suggesting a think tank, and here they suggested that government can focusing on incentives for the Make in India, and government should give priority to the implementation of direct tax code and rationalization of subsidies, particularly fertilizers, because you know very well that fertilizer subsidy is one of the very much causing, very much problem to the Indian state. This fertilizers subsidy is draining the resources of the Indian state. Apart from that, it is also creating burden to the soil fertility. Its center fertilizer subsidy is going to have 62% over the budget and 1.3 lakh crores in the financial year 2021, which is very huge. And as per some estimates, it is 500 LMT of fertilizers is used in India. So this 500 lakh metric tons fertilizers is used in the last 10 years is creating burden to the not only government revenue but also to the soil fertility also. So on that point, we can say that we need to give priority to rationalize the subsidies to the fertilizers. That's all for today. Of course, there is one more article talks about crisis in Peru. I just spoke about yesterday crisis in Brazil, and now it's Peru is also in news. So I request you, please do focus over the reasons of Brazil and Peru, which are important. Of course, Chile is in the news in the last year because of its constitutional reforms, and please do focus on these three countries on the map point of view. Thank you for listening. Jai Hind.